hostage by a trucker and repeatedly assaulted throughout that time before she was able to escape.
Oh, God.
So she had met the trucker at a truck stop while he was supposed to be on his way to Arizona. She was just trying to hitch a ride. She was super tired, and she eventually fell asleep in the back of the cab. When she woke up, the trucker was on top of her and forced her back. He chained her to the wall of his cab and gagged her when she had been falling asleep. During this week-long ordeal, he had whipped her, he had pierced her with pins and fish hooks, he had sodomized and raped her, and by her estimation, she thinks that she was chained up for about 6 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah. At this time also, he approached her with a straight razor and cut her hair off while he had her shower in his apartment in Houston. So he let her clean up and then forced her back into chains in his house where he cut off all of her hair.
Did she know, like, because, she was being, like, kept, I'm thinking, in the back of the cab for a while. Mm-hmm. Did she know that they were in Houston when they were in Houston, or did she not know where she was at all?
I can't imagine that she did. I mean...
That's... God, like, think about just, like, traveling and not knowing, like, where you're being taken.
Right. After he had let her shower and cut off her hair, he had put her back into the truck, but apparently he didn't bind her well enough, and she, while he was pulled over at a brewery, was able to get free and ran down the highway where the man had picked her up. The police registered that she still had a dog leash attached to her neck while she was running. She was taken by police in a squad car to identify the man because they had stopped a trucker that matched the description that she had given while she was in police custody. Mm-hmm. She saw Rhodes, who was the trucker that they stopped, and said that she couldn't identify him as the person that had held her captive, and she said it wasn't him. The thing is, later she was in the hospital, and she changed her story and said for sure it was him, but she didn't want to press charges, and she just wanted to go home. A few days later, a 14-year-old girl, Regina K. Waters, was running away with her new boyfriend, Ricky. She was visiting her mother when she had run away, and her mother had come home after work, seen that her daughter wasn't there, didn't see a note, checked the answering machine to see if she had called and said, like, hey, man, I'm at a party, or any sort of information, and didn't find anything. So clearly gets nervous, starts calling around to friends that know Regina, anyone that might have, like, any clue about this, and when even her ex-husband didn't know anything about Regina's disappearance, she started getting very worried because 14-year-old.
Yeah, and your kid's missing, time to go into panic mode.
Totally. So she did report her as a missing person to the Pasadena police. While she was talking to the police, she did say that they had argued about 2 nights prior and that Regina had a history of running away. This is one of the only times I think I've seen the police actually believing a parent that is pretty nervous that her child has run away, and then actually did something even when the child had a history of running away and doing kind of, let's say, devious teenager things. Not getting arrested or anything like that, but running around and having parties and stuff. During the argument, her mother had said that Regina broke her down, and eventually she just agreed to letting her go out. And when she was leaving, she was like, I'll let you know when I'm coming home. Which, that's like a power play in a fight when you're a kid with your parents. You're like, I'll tell you when I'm coming home. I'll come home when I feel like it.
I mean, I never pulled that card, but I
it.
definitely broke my parents down and got them to let me go out and do things.
My parents were much more strict than your parents were.
Yeah. I mean, also, like, I was a little asshole. I did definitely, like, sneak out of the house and go do stupid things. But, half the time I wasn't even going to, like, a wild, crazy party. Half the time I was, like, sneaking out so I could go to Denny's and drink coffee and smoke cigarettes with my friends.
Yep. I snuck out to smoke cigarettes. Oh, that's how this voice happened. The voice that no one likes.
Oh, I like your voice.
After reporting her missing to the police, and the police starting to kind of move on trying to find the missing child, because, sorry, 14-year-olds, you children. Her mother started posting flyers. She even issued a reward for any information that would lead to finding her daughter. About 5 days after the flyers were posted, a person called to say that they saw Regina talking to 2 young men before she left, a Billy and a Ricky. Ricky, probably her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
But her mother didn't really know about that. And Billy's girlfriend, Urena, which it's such a unique name that her mother was like, wait, I know those kids. And I remember that girl had a weird name, and then started asking around and being like, does anyone know Urena? Like, does anyone know her?
Yeah.
And when they finally found, probably, let's just be fair, probably the only one anywhere near.
It's a unique name.
It's really unique. They started investigating from there. The caller had returned with more information later that led her mother to the apartment that there was a party at several nights before Regina's disappearance. And it was the apartment of Billy Wayne Gibbs. Officers, now having this information, because obviously she's taping phone calls that are coming in that have any relevance to her daughter's case, do a background check, and a lot of the local officers say that they know who these people are because they've been in some sort of trouble a few different times. They're not terrible children, but they are like little hoodlums.
Yeah, they're hoodlums. Yeah, that's a really good word for it.
Yeah.
The little party animals. You know, Billy and Pretty Ricky.
And Urena, sweet. It did turn out that they were wanted in connection for an auto theft a little while earlier. And so police are a little bit more motivated now knowing that there's at least some sort of weird background. Maybe they helped her run away or something. You know what I mean? They were interested to talk to her.
Yeah, and a correlation to a missing teenager, of course.
Yeah, totally. So Billy and Urena were brought into the station. They had said that Ricky and Regina had planned to run away to Mexico because they were worried about her because she's 14 years old, and him not getting caught up in the relationship because he would get charged for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Knowing that they're probably running away and running across not only state lines, but also, country lines, they issued a warrant for Ricky. They interviewed Regina's dad as well, and he said that he had gotten a disturbing call that was someone's voice he didn't recognize. The caller asked if he was Regina's father and if he knew where to find her.
Oh, no.
Yep.
No.
Regina's dad had obviously replied, yes, I am her father, and no, I don't, where is she? He said that he cut her hair and that she was in a barn loft. And then when her dad had asked if she was still alive, the caller just hung up on him. They tried to track down where this call was coming from, but once again, it's the 80s. It was from a payphone, more likely than not, and they weren't able to find information.
So let me get this straight. The caller gets a hold of her dad and, confirms that that's her dad, and then asks him if he knows where to find her, and the dad's like, no.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, this person apparently now knows where she is. Is that just fucking with him?
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's like a hop and a skip away from some Albert Fish shit. You remember he wrote that letter to the parents?
Yes.
Fucking asshole. I hate him.
Fucking asshole. So the police had waited on the report for where the phone was possibly located so that they can maybe triangulate an area to figure out where this person might be. On the same night that Regina's dad was called, her mother was also called. She recorded the call. The person said that he had information about her whereabouts and that her mother was to meet him at 6:30 in the morning at the local convenience store. He gave no name or description. She didn't know the voice either. Obviously, she reported to the police and was like, hey, I'm meeting someone that supposedly has information on where my daughter is. Don't know who it is. Whatever. The police were like, yo, we're going to come with you.
Yeah, don't go alone.
Yeah.
That's my first thought.
Yeah. I mean, albeit it was definitely, an early enough time that people would have been at that store, but, still, don't go alone.
Yeah.
They hung back a little bit and watched the parking lot. Her mother waited for over 2 hours, and the caller never showed. So, obviously, it's been a little bit of time, and the police and Regina's parents start believing that something probably happened to her. And more likely than not, she was either injured or dead. The mysterious caller had tried to set an additional meeting, again at the convenience store, but once again never showed up. Meanwhile, a small female skeleton, possibly a younger, like teenage-sized person, was found. Her mother brought dental records. They find out it's not Regina, which I'm sure must have been like a huge relief because, you know, your daughter's not dead, but also terrifying because then how many more are you going to find that are about similar descriptions? And then you have to go through this over and over and over again, you know?
Because the hope of finding them alive is, I mean, I imagine it's dwindling, and not finding anything at all and, like, not having any closure is terrible. So, I mean, just all around nasty.
Yeah. Later, 2 small boys who were playing had found a woodpile and had stumbled also across human remains. There was too much decomposition, so it wasn't identified at the site, and they weren't able to determine at the site whether or not it was female, male, or any sort of age. They brought the body into a coroner's office who said it matched about the right age group, but again, the dental records didn't match.
And then when they brought it into the coroner's office, I'm guessing they determined it was a female?
Yes. So at this point, now they're finding a bunch of similar sized bodies to their daughter. They started 100% to believe that she was dead. The woman that was talking about it was like, they just started believing she was dead and just really needed the closure. And anytime that something kind of popped up, they were both there. They just needed the closure, like most people do. Like, obviously, you don't want to find out that your child is dead. But it also, obviously, truly sucks.
To not know.
Right, and to not know where they are at all.
Yeah, oh, God.
A farmer in Bond County in Illinois had gone to a barn on his property that he hadn't been using for an extended period of time. He was checking around inside of it because he was going to burn it down and was just making sure that he didn't, like, leave anything weird or there wasn't, like, a nest of chicks or something that he was just going to set ablaze. But when he climbed into the loft in the barn, he...
Oh, shit!
Saw, like, a little bit of hay kind of, like, moved around. Knowing that he hadn't been in that barn for an extended period of time, he looked a little bit closer and then had found human remains. Once again, there was too much decomposition, and the body wasn't identified at the site.
It is Regina.
The farm also was off of Interstate 70, which we know, because it goes to Ohio and to parts of Indiana.
Sure does.
Sure does. I've been on that stupid fucking highway all the time. While looking over the possible crime scene, or at least dump scene, they found a single white thread that seemed way too new for anything else that was in the barn. They did an autopsy when she was brought into the coroner's office. It was decided that she was a young female, about 14 through 16, somewhere between like 90 and 100 pounds. Her hair looked like it was cut recently, but it did have evidence that it started growing back after it was cut, but not for an extended period of time. It was also discovered that she died from strangulation, specifically baling wire that was wrapped around her neck. There was wire that was found on the farm that matched. Her head was almost severed because the wire was twisted around her neck 16 times as she was being strangled. The autopsy also determined that she was killed almost a year prior. They decided that the cotton fiber that was found in the hayloft probably had come from a towel, but it's one of those whatever shop towels that you, like, everyone has them. I have them at my house. I use them for everything. She was listed as a Jane Doe, and in trying to figure out who she might be, based on her description and what was found during the autopsy, they plugged everything in, and about 950 matches came from about the time frame of where she would have disappeared.
And they got those dental records.
They do, but this is in Illinois. The other one was in Texas.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
They need to, like, link them up and figure out that that's where it's from.
Police work, bitch.
Yes, queen.
They again narrowed the search to about 100 by a more specific thought on her time of death. Because it's the 80s, they were sending out teletypes, which basically is like a fax, but not really. It's remember those old printers with the strips that you'd have to rip off the sides?
Yeah.
It's like that. So they started sending out to any local areas to see if maybe someone was part of that. The town that they found her in hadn't had a murder for a really, really long time. So it's pretty unlikely that she came from that town. Also, no one had gone missing recently, and there was nothing really kind of occurring.
And then this, I'm guessing, it's right off the highway, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Which then the police were like, Well, it could be a drifter, it could be a trucker, it could be a random person that's just over the road in some capacity that's just dumping